Chapter 94, Take the Key. The 7 great sages of the monster and demon race had appeared. The 7 great sages came from different places and different races. There were demons, monsters, and humans. Combined, they were the 7 great sages. Among them, the ones from the monster race was the great sage of the ocean cover, Demon King Zhao, great sage of the chaotic heavens, Demon King Dapeng, great sage of the moving mountain, Demon King Gui, great sage of the blowing wind, Demon King Yuan, and great sage of the heaven-leveling heaven-raising bull. These were the 5 demon kings from the monster race. The great sage of the white-clothed, Bai Zilong, was a human. The great sage of the dreaming, Yun Shanhai, was a demon. The 7 of them formed the 7 great sages. In the previous era, they were top powerhouses of the world and were a force to be reckoned with. Now that they have reappeared in this brand new era, the great sage of the ocean cover, Demon King Zhao, and the great sage of the chaotic heavens, Demon King Dapeng were coming to the Yuhua god dynasty to visit Emperor Da. They wanted Emperor Da to give them a piece of land. They were relying on their formidable strength to threaten Emperor Da into doing this. Unfortunately, Emperor Da had to accept the threat. Because he didn't have any subordinates who were as powerful as them. At the beginning of the recovery of the world's spiritual energy, a martial sage could already intimidate anyone in the entire world. Ever since that reign, Lin Jufeng became the first person to step into the human god realm. For a long time after that, the human god realm became the pinnacle of the martial path. But following Emperor Ming's death and the invasion of the demons 10 years ago, where the imperial capital of the Yuhua god dynasty was surrounded by demons, human gods weren't truly powerful enough anymore. Lin Jufeng once again lifted the curtain of the grotto heaven realm. But it was a pity. Perhaps it was because he improved too fast that the common people couldn't keep up with him. Or perhaps it was because the recovery of the spiritual energy in the world didn't bring with it the huge amount of spiritual energy needed for others to reach the grotto heaven realm. After all, the recovery itself would still take time to complete. This was also why the people who unsealed themselves at the beginning were all martial sages and human gods. The truly powerful ones were all waiting for the spiritual energy to become as vast and as boundless as the sea. Only when the world was completely moisturized with spiritual energy would they come out and display their ambitions into the world once more. Lin Jufeng entered the grotto heaven realm 10 years ago, and it was only 10 years later that other people had started to reach the grotto heaven realm. Emperor Da knew that the only person he could rely on now was his sister. After the Zenith Heaven Path sect knew that Emperor Da had discovered some clues regarding their true nature, they slowly became indifferent to Emperor Da. In the past 5 years, they didn't do anything overboard, so Emperor Da turned a blind eye to them. He wouldn't ask the Zenith Heaven Path sect for help, nor could he do so. He visited his younger sister, Princess Yulin's palace. 5 years ago, the 16-year-old Princess Yulin made a name for herself and was remembered by everyone in the world. But she chose to cool down and live in seclusion for 5 years. Without leaving her palace, she quietly accumulated her strength as she continuously practiced to deepen her comprehension of the two-sword techniques. The trip to the plains back then had brought her a lot of things. Be it knowledge or other things, she was reborn and learned to think on her own. The whole world praised her. Countless invisible hands were constantly pushing her into the sky. So high that Princess Yulin became afraid of its height. Other people who were praised would definitely be happy. Then, they would lose themselves and become obsessed with it. But it wasn't the case for Princess Yulin. She chose to wash off the fame and glory she obtained and return to the beginning. She went back to holding the sword and practicing with it daily. In the past 5 years, she had rarely seen anyone, even the Empress Dowager. It has also been 5 years since she last saw Emperor Da. After 5 years, Emperor Da looked at his younger sister who had no makeup on. She was dressed in snow-white clothes. She now had a bearing similar to that of a jade beauty. Emperor Da was moved by the sight that he saw. "It's been 5 years since we last met. You seem to have changed into a different person," Emperor Da said. Princess Yulin smiled. She lifted her teacup and said, "I just grew up, that's all." Emperor Da looked at Princess Yulin, full of emotions. She just grew up, that's all. The 16-year-old Princess Yulin from 5 years ago was still a child. But to solve the problem that could implicate millions of common people, she went into the plains and created her own path of slaughter. And today, 5 years later, Princess Yulin told him that she had grown up now, that's all. "Is there something on your mind today, brother?" Princess Yulin asked curiously. She knew that Emperor De was very busy. None of the issues that could reach the imperial court were small matters after all. Hence, there must be a reason why Emperor De came here. Emperor De nodded and explained the recent events in detail. Princess Yulin frowned slightly as she listened. The 7 great sages of the monster and demon race. If it's true that their cultivation bases are beyond the human god realm, then they are indeed very powerful. Yes, they are very powerful. Otherwise, I wouldn't be distressed. Emperor De smiled bitterly. Brother, I haven't broken through into the grotto heaven realm yet. Princess Yulin directly answered the question that Emperor De wanted to ask her. Emperor De opened his mouth, then closed it. He dismissed the question that he wanted to ask. Instead, he changed it into something else. What about your master? Princess Yulin asked in surprise. You want to look for my master? Emperor De nodded and looked calmly at Princess Yulin. His eyes gleamed with a faint shimmer. Did you gain some information or something? Princess Yulin was indeed born from the same mother as Emperor De. She immediately guessed what he was thinking. This needs to be confirmed first. Emperor De shook his head and refused to tell Princess Yulin about his recent discovery. Princess Yulin had no interest in continuing the conversation. I don't know where my master is. I haven't gone out for 5 years. Emperor De looked at Princess Yulin and suddenly extended his hand. What? Princess Yulin raised her brows. Give me the key to the cold palace, said Emperor De. Princess Yulin laughed and said, the walls of the cold palace courtyard aren't that high. You can just climb over them. That won't be polite. Emperor De smiled mysteriously. He looked at Princess Yulin and said, that key is not something precious, but you are unwilling to give it to me. This means that there is something wrong with the cold palace. Give me the key, I will visit the place. Emperor De looked at Princess Yulin proudly. Princess Yulin had no choice but to hand over the key to Emperor De and remind him. Don't disturb the place. Also, what if there's no one around? Emperor De just smiled and got up to leave without saying anything. What if there's no one around? Impossible. Emperor De's recent 5 years consisted of handling the imperial court and the state affairs of the Yuha God dynasty. However, he had also been carefully investigating any information as to who could be living in the cold palace. What was the identity of that dethroned crown prince? Nearly 50 years have passed since then. No one knew about the matter of Lin Jufeng being banished into the cold palace. And in the historical records, because it was considered a huge scandal, there wasn't a detailed description of it at all. There was only one sentence. Because of his lust, the dethroned crown prince is to be locked in the cold palace till his death. Thus, he was banished into the cold palace back then. But who was this dethroned crown prince? What was his background? Why was he banished into the cold palace? When he was investigating these matters, he only lacked a starting point. But after so many years, Emperor De was bound to find a piece of information that he could use as the starting point of his investigation. From there, he decisively searched for and discovered various answers to the burning questions he had in mind. It turns out that this dethroned crown prince and grandpa emperor are biological brothers. Then, I should address him as big grand uncle. He has been imprisoned in the cold palace for almost 50 years. Is he still alive? Since he has been banished into the cold palace, that courtyard must belong to big grand uncle. Therefore, the one who gave little sister pointers wasn't grandpa emperor's soul, but was instead big grand uncle. I shall go visit big grand uncle now. Emperor De has been investigating the truth for the past 5 years. Today, he was only one key away from the truth. Hence, he came to ask for the key. Moreover, he couldn't tell Princess Yulin about his speculations just now. It was better not to disclose any unverified information after all. After obtaining the key from Princess Yulin, Emperor De didn't immediately rush to the cold palace. He didn't tell anyone and returned to the Forbidden City to continue dealing with the state affairs. In the latter half of the night, Emperor De quietly left the Forbidden City alone and went for the cold palace. Late at night, he opened the cold palace's door. Once the door to the cold palace was opened, Emperor De didn't go in. Instead, he bowed all the way and said in a deep voice, "Unfilial descendant is disturbing big grand uncle's rest. I ask for big grand uncle's help." Lin Jufeng and the white cat who was cultivating opened their eyes. "Your descendant is here." The white cat looked at Lin Jufeng. Lin Jufeng was puzzled. How did he know that I was here? Did the Empress Dowager tell him? That shouldn't be the case. If the Empress Dowager wanted to tell Emperor De about him, then she would have already done so 5 years ago when Princess Yulin was forced into a marriage alliance. Why wait until now? Lin Jufeng initially wanted to ignore him, but Emperor De had already addressed him as Big Grand Uncle. His confident tone meant that he knew that Lin Jufeng was there. How did you know of my existence? Lin Jufeng asked curiously. Outside the cold palace, Emperor De's expression shook. He pulled himself together and said, "It's because I've been looking through all sorts of information in the past 5 years, including things that happened decades ago, as well as the relics left behind by my father and grandfather." Smart, the White Cat praised. Lin Jufeng didn't expect that Emperor De discovered his identity through the latter's own deduction. This made Lin Jufeng think highly of him. Isn't the Yuha God dynasty doing well? Why did you come to find me? Seeing that he was so smart, Lin Jufeng decided to ask about his purpose for coming here. What exactly happened that Emperor De himself came here to look for him, instead of the Empress Dowager coming here? After all, the Empress Dowager was the only one that was supposed to know of his existence. But the Empress Dowager didn't come to seek his help. Emperor De immediately told him about the recent events in the Yuha God dynasty and about the 7 great sages of the monster and demon race. One stood before the cold palace while the other was within the courtyard. Their voices weren't loud, but both sides could hear each other properly. After Emperor De finished talking about the 7 sages, he knelt on both knees and pleaded. Big Grand Uncle, Grandpa Emperor and Father passed the Yuha God dynasty to me in one piece. Not to mention pioneering new territories, but it's my responsibility to guard the foundation of the ancestors without losing even an inch of land. But the 7 sages are simply too powerful. The power of a secular dynasty such as our Yuha God dynasty is no match for them. If the Yuha God dynasty's lands were to be given up by me, then I would really be a sinner for all eternity. Even if I were to die 10,000 times, I would still be unable to make up for it. Today, it is already an unforgivable sin for me, this unfilial descendant, to rashly come to your door and disturb Big Grand Uncle's leisurely cultivation. I only hope that the Big Grand Uncle can help the Yuha God dynasty and protect the foundation built by our ancestors. This way, in the netherworld, Grandpa Emperor will remain smiling. Emperor De had truly matured. 5 years ago, he was still a stubborn child who didn't know how to take responsibility and was only focused on his own path of cultivation. But now, he had the responsibility of an emperor bearing down his shoulders. Lin Jufeng stood in the courtyard and looked at the walls that were covered with sword scars. His gaze was faint as he looked through the walls one after another. He then saw the kneeling Emperor De. He was impressed. Lin Jufeng remembered very clearly that 5 years ago, the Emperor of the Great Shah's Dragon Sparrow came to ask for a marriage alliance in order to maintain peace with the Yuha God dynasty. The court officials were in a terrible dispute over it. As an elder brother and also the Emperor, Emperor De actually couldn't come up with a decision. He just vehemently disagreed and hid in the Forbidden City to cultivate diligently. If it wasn't for Lin Jufeng, Princess Yulin wouldn't be able to escape that calamity. The Emperor De from 5 years ago was truly just a child. But 5 years later, he was now a man who could take up his responsibility as the Emperor of a God dynasty. He knew that with the Yuha God dynasty's strength, it wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of the 7 great sages. At that time, the best outcome would be to compensate them with a large amount of land to appease their anger. But Emperor De knew that he couldn't do that. If he did so, then he would become the greatest sinner of his lineage. At his wit's end, he directly came to look for Lin Jufeng. Without caring about his own reputation, he knelt down and sincerely asked for his help. But why did these so-called 7 great sages sound so familiar? Lin Jufeng was certain that he had heard this from someone before. 7 great sages, the white cat pointed underground with its white claws. Lin Jufeng instantly remembered the demon king that he had defeated earlier in the day in the demon's den beneath the copper coffin. That demon king said that he was one of the 7 great sages, Demon King Pingtian. Lin Jufeng asked curiously, who are the 7 great sages? Hearing Lin Jufeng's question, Emperor De became excited. As long as Lin Jufeng was willing to listen, there was hope for him to lend a hand. They are the great sage of the Ocean Cove, Demon King Zhao, great sage of the chaotic heavens, Demon King Dapeng, great sage of the moving mountain, Demon King Gui, great sage of the blowing wind, Demon King Yuan, great sage of the white-clothed, Bai Zilong, great sage of the dreaming, Yun Shanhai, and great sage of the heaven leveling, the heaven-raising bull. Emperor De stated their names. When Lin Jufeng heard about the great sage of the heaven leveling, he revealed an, as expected, expression on his face. The great sage of the heaven leveling, one of the 7 great sages of the monster race and demon race, was currently being suppressed inside the demon's den. Just today, he was defeated by Lin Jufeng and the latter used him to sign in for a good item. The sword driving technique. And on the night of that same day, Emperor De came to ask for help, informing Lin Jufeng that the other members of the 7 sages were coming to the Yuhua God dynasty to ask for a piece of land from the God dynasty. Lin Jufeng looked at Emperor De and said, "Go back and find out how many of the 7 great sages are coming, and where they are right now. Also, don't tell anyone about me." Emperor De was overjoyed. When he heard this, he was finally reassured. He felt as if a great burden was lifted off his chest. Emperor De hurriedly kowtowed a few times and replied in excitement, "I will go back and investigate this matter thoroughly before coming back here to report." "Go," Lin Jufeng said softly. Emperor De stood up and carefully closed the cold palace's door before rushing back to investigate. From the beginning till the end, he never saw Lin Jufeng with his own eyes. But after hearing Lin Jufeng's voice, he felt the urge to trust Lin Jufeng in his heart. This was probably a form of trust that came from their bloodline connection. For some reason, Lin Jufeng's words alone were enough to quell his panic and apprehension. After Emperor De left, Lin Jufeng and the White Cat looked at each other. "You want to interfere in this matter?" the White Cat asked. "Yes. If the imperial court were to start giving up land to compensate them, its demise would surely be nigh." Lin Jufeng nodded. "If there was a first time, there would be a second, third. Countless times." Lin Jufeng didn't want the Yuhua God dynasty, which Emperor Yuan and Emperor Ming had painstakingly reformed, to fall into ruin after just 3 generations. "You are going to intervene?" the White Cat laid on Lin Jufeng's shoulder and softly asked. Lin Jufeng thought for a while. Then, he replied in a serious manner. Maybe there isn't a need for me to stop the 7 sages myself. If you don't appear and stop the 7 sages, who can possibly defeat them out there?" the White Cat said. The 7 great sages of the monster and demon race weren't beings that those of the human god realm could match against. Lin Jufeng smiled and said, "Indeed, no one from the Yuhua God dynasty can fight them, but there's someone who may be able to." "Who?" the White Cat asked curiously. Her eyes, which seemed to have celestial bodies in them, looked at Lin Jufeng. Reflected in her eyes were not only the stars but also Lin Jufeng himself. "Didn't you see him this morning?" Lin Jufeng asked softly. "Great sage of the heaven leveling. That demon king," the White Cat recalled. "That demon king Pingtian was one of the 7 great sages. What do you think the effect would be if I released him and asked him to solve this problem for me?" Lin Jufeng told the White Cat his plan. "Be careful of creating problems for yourself. Those demons are not to be trifled with. Once they absorb the spiritual energy in the outside world, their strength will increase by leaps and bounds." The White Cat was worried. "It's fine. As long as I'm around, the imperial capital and the Yuhua God dynasty will never fall into chaos." Lin Jufeng was confident. "Then why don't you just stop the 7 sages yourself?" the White Cat asked curiously. "It's not convenient for me to fight now, I'm waiting for the first spring rain." Lin Jufeng simply stated. "Waiting for the rain again?" The White Cat looked at Lin Jufeng in surprise. Lin Jufeng just smiled. But in the end, he didn't say anything. Lin Jufeng, who said that he would wait for another spring rain, didn't tell the White Cat why. Spring was a time of recovery for all things in the world. In this period, Lin Jufeng continued his routine in peace within the cold palace. The next day, he entered the underground palace and opened the seal of the demon's den. There was no need for him to do anything. Out of the 9 remaining demons, one of them flew out. Boom! Lin Jufeng swung his hand and slapped him on the face. The attack immediately sent the demon sprawling onto the floor. Then, he signed in. Sign in successful. Received 36 swords of the demon path. Lin Jufeng looked in surprise at the 36 longswords that appeared out of thin air. They were entirely black in color, and each of them had a portion of a dragon's body carved on their surfaces. When the 36 swords were combined, they formed a hideous and vicious-looking demonic dragon that hovered in the air. This is a combination sword formation to summon a demonic dragon. The 36 swords are the demonic dragon's body. Once successfully executed, its might will inevitably be shocking. After Lin Jufeng understood its power, he happily kept the demonic swords and placed them into the sword case. He would nurture them and improve their quality. Since he had no use for them temporarily, he was planning on keeping them in the sword case where they could slowly be nurtured for improvement. Lin Jufeng usually left the demon's den after a beatdown. The demons in the demon's den thought so too. The demon that was struck down received grievous injuries, but he didn't care. After all, Lin Jufeng would only hit him once. It wouldn't be a problem for him to slowly recover back to his peak. The demons in the demon's den talked with each other and reminisced about the past once more. They were just like old men who sat at the entrance of their villages. They were looking at each other with nostalgic looks on their faces. Their eyes were all filled with yearning. As they were discussing, Lin Jufeng knocked on the entrance of the demon's den. Clang! This made the demons look at Lin Jufeng. They were all confused. After defeating a demon with a slap, he actually didn't leave. Was Lin Jufeng planning to continue and humiliate them even further? The hearts of the demons tightened for no reason. They looked at him nervously. But Lin Jufeng didn't continue to attack. He calmly asked, "Who is the great sage of the heaven leveling?" The demons in the demon's den were stunned. He was looking for the great sage of the heaven leveling. Everyone looked at the Tauren demon that Lin Jufeng injured yesterday. "I am," the heaven-raising bull said, looking at Lin Jufeng in confusion. What was he trying to do? Was he about to beat him up? That would be too unreasonable. Lin Jufeng had just beaten him up yesterday. "You're from the 7 great sages of the monster race and demon race." Lin Jufeng continued his line of questioning. Lin Jufeng didn't attack or make any other moves. As a result, the demons in the demon's den heaved sighs of relief. Yes. The heaven-raising bull nodded. "Are you familiar with the other members of the 7 great sages of the monster race and demon race?" Lin Jufeng asked once more. "Of course, we were once sworn brothers," the heaven-raising bull said. "What happened?" the heaven-raising bull followed up. "Nothing much, it's just that the great sage of the ocean cover and the great sage of the chaotic heavens are coming to the imperial capital to find trouble with the Yuhua god dynasty," Lin Jufeng casually replied. But this leisurely tone of his made the heaven-raising bull's heart tighten. The great sage of the ocean cover and the great sage of the chaotic heavens actually provoked this fiendish man. Wouldn't there be a conflict between them then? They are coming to find trouble with the Yuhua god dynasty. What are you planning to do? The heaven-raising bull asked. "Kill them, of course," Lin Jufeng said in a matter-of-factly manner. The heaven-raising bull looked nervous. This ferocious man was truly planning to kill them. But there was also a demon who objected. Since the great sage of the ocean cover and the great sage of the chaotic heavens have already appeared in the world, they must have absorbed the renewed spiritual energy of this era and had already recovered their formidable strength. Do you really think that you can win against the 2 of them alone? With these words, the other demons became excited. If Lin Jufeng was defeated or killed, then they would have a chance to escape. Do you think that they will be able to defeat me in the early stages of the recovery of the world's spiritual energy after just absorbing the renewed spiritual energy of the world? Lin Jufeng sarcastically asked. He wasn't worried about this problem at all. The excited demons seemed to have been strangled as they choked at the same time. Thinking about Lin Jufeng's current strength, the 7 great sages of the monster race and demon race that had only just appeared really wouldn't be able to defeat him. Why are you telling me all of this? The great sage of the heaven leveling asked curiously. Since Lin Jufeng could win, why was he talking to him then? I want you to persuade the 7 great sages of the monster race and demon race. Stop them from overestimating their capabilities and causing trouble for the Yuhua god dynasty. Lin Jufeng calmly explained. But every demon in the demon's den suddenly became excited. Especially the great sage of the heaven leveling. He pointed at himself in disbelief. You're letting me out. He was on the verge of tears. 10 years. 10 whole years. Lin Jufeng had suppressed them for 10 years. In these 10 years, he had beaten up each and every one of them. Well, almost. It could be said that every demon in here had lived a depressing life so far in this brand new era. But even so, they didn't give up on themselves. Instead, they kept thinking about when they could leave. As the world's spiritual energy recovered, more and more powerful cultivators would appear. If someone were to defeat or kill Lin Jufeng one day, then wouldn't they be able to escape? But no one expected that Lin Jufeng would actually take the initiative to release them. You don't want to go out? Lin Jufeng asked. No, I want to go out, the great sage of the heaven leveling replied in a hurry. But aren't you afraid that after I leave, I will join forces with the other great sages to destroy your Yuha god dynasty? The great sage of the heaven leveling asked curiously. The other demons were also puzzled. Why would Lin Jufeng do this? I am letting you out because I don't want to fight with anyone for the time being. I don't want to fight with the 7 sages, so I want you to go and persuade them. As for your question, if I am worried that you will bring me trouble when you got out, you're overthinking it. Not just you, but also the other demons. I am planning to release them all in the near future. If you guys can deliver a devastating blow to me, I will praise you lot instead. Lin Jufeng sternly announced. In a few days, these demons would no longer be useful to him. Lin Jufeng would no longer be able to sign in using the demons in this demon's den. Of course, he could continue to suppress them. But he had no intention of doing so. The demons below were all excited upon hearing Lin Jufeng's words. They were excited to hear that he was planning on releasing them. Aren't you afraid that our 3,000 plus demons will completely destroy your Yuha god dynasty once we get out? A demon god asked. The strong will always remain strong. After I let you all out, don't you all still need some time to become stronger? To absorb the renewed spiritual energy of the world, and to recover your own strength before coming to me for revenge? Lin Jufeng asked. To be honest, after these 10 years, you lot aren't so useful to me anymore. I've thought about it seriously and I've decided to let you lot out. This world is simply too weak. It's too slow to let the people of this world grow on their own. By releasing you guys, the world will have more powerhouses for they will feel pressured before your presences. Then, the recovery of the world's spiritual energy will also speed up. At that time, I will still be the same as before. I will still be able to suppress the world. I am simply dissatisfied with the recovery speed of the world's spiritual energy. Lin Jufeng laid out his thoughts. The current him already felt that this world was a mere cage to him. The recovery of the world's spiritual energy was just incredibly slow for him. Thus, he decided that the world itself needed a push. He had to give the world a push so that the recovery speed of the world's spiritual energy would become slightly faster than a turtle's pace. Thanks for listening. The story continues shortly. This was read to you by Erebus.